My friend's mailbox and post are in really bad shape. I'm going to surprise him and build him a new one out of cedar. Let's get started. This is my friend's old mailbox. It's definitely seen better days. But the post is still good, so I have an idea where we can salvage that. First, we're going to cut our pieces of cedar to length. Now we're going to plane them so that they're smooth on both sides. I've attached several pieces of wood together to make them the same dimension as the 4x4 post. This will be our stand-in as we assemble the mailbox sleeve. Now, using our stand-in, we're going to mark where the cedar needs to be cut. Setting our table saw fence to that dimension, we're going to rip all 4 sides of our post sleeve. We're using waterproof Titebond 3 on this project since it's going outside. Now, using our post stand-in blank, we're going to assemble our sleeve and then do a little light sanding to flush it up. This is the piece that the mailbox is going to mount to. We're going to glue it and brad nail it and then screw it together with some exterior grade screws. In order to find the diagonal for our mailbox support, we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now on the miter saw, we're going to use that dimension to cut a diagonal at 45 degrees. And it fits perfectly. After making the 2 sides, we need to make the top and the bottom of the diagonal. We put a 45 on one end, and then we just use our side to mark the length. 45ing the other end, and then we glue and nail it to our side piece. We do the other side the same way. And then we just repeat on the back side as well. Now we're just measuring and locating where the mailbox needs to sit on the post. We figured this out by looking at the postal code regulations online. So we'll glue it and brad nail it, then we'll come back and screw it with some exterior screws. I'm placing my screws where they'll be covered up by the diagonal brace. Now it's time to glue and screw on the diagonal brace itself. First, we'll tack it in place with some brads, and then we'll come back with more of our exterior screws. These 2 screws will be seen, but there's no other way around it. Now we're going to mount the mailbox. It's very important that you pre-drill these holes because they're in the edge of the board and they will split it out if you don't. Now we're going to make some trim to go around the top. We're using a Roman ogee bit in our router, and we're going to put a profile down each side of this piece of cedar. Now, taking it over to the table saw, we're going to cut these strips out. And here's our own homemade trim. We're going to glue a cap on the top of the post first. I'm using a spacer block to make sure it's centered, and then I'm putting it on with a couple of brads. Now, using some of our homemade trim that I've mitered to size, I'm going to put it up there and space it with a scrap piece so I get it really good and tight on the miter. And then using a real fine pin nailer, I'm going to tack it in place until the glue dries. And then we'll just work our way around the top of the post. Peekaboo. To finish our post, we're going to use a spar urethane. You can't use regular polyurethane because it won't hold up to the sun. I could have left this natural and let it weather to a gray, but I like the look of the cedar better. Cedar is a soft wood, and I was concerned that a string trimmer would damage the cedar and eat it away. So I've decided to put a reinforced metal collar at the bottom. I first measured where it needed to be and drew a line, and then using some aluminum flashing and a couple of galvanized roofing nails, I'm going to tack this on and form it around the post as I go. The last piece I have to cut with tin snips, and then we'll finish nailing it off. I intentionally overhung the metal by 3/4 of an inch so that I could fold it under and give the bottom edge of the post sleeve a little more protection. So using tin snips and a hammer, I fold these flaps under. The end grain of any wood project is the most vulnerable part because this is where the water will soak up into. Even though cedar is naturally rot resistant and made to go outside, it never hurts to give it a little bit of extra protection with flashing. And here's what it looks like. Now it's time to disassemble the old mailbox. You can see I don't have to work very hard for it to come apart. I gotta make sure all the nails and anything protruding from it are pulled. He didn't want this paper box anymore because he's not using it. Now here's how our sleeve works. It fits like a glove. Just to make sure it stays in place, I'm putting a few screws in the back edge of it. And here I am putting the house numbers on the mailbox. Here's the finished product. I like how it turned out. The cedar is very pretty and it's a definite upgrade. Well, the cedar mailbox turned out real nice. I like how we could reuse that 4x4 post. When I first saw it and I saw the mailbox falling apart, I noticed that the post was structurally sound. And so I immediately had the idea of why try to redo a post when you can just make a sleeve that would slide over it. So it turned out really good. I hope it's inspired you to do the same. Maybe you have a mailbox that needs some upgrading, but you don't want to have to replace the post and the post is in good shape. Use this method. I was pleased at how it turned out. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so by clicking this button over here. Check out these videos below me. As always, thanks for watching.